Well, guys, I'm back. Sorry about the hiatus. I had a lot of stuff going on, but now I'm ready to hop back into it. And today we're going to be reviewing Judgement. Judgement is the Yakuza spin-off game that takes place still in the Yakuza universe, but it's a completely separate story. It's a completely separate thing because characters like Kiryu, Majima, and all those people aren't a part of it. In this game, we get to play as Yagami, who is a ex-lawyer turned detective after a specific case 3 years prior to the start of the game. Basically what happened was that he was defending a client on potential murder, and Yagami was able to prove that his client did not commit the murder. But after the whole situation happened, the client ended up murdering his girlfriend, and because of this guilt, Yagami decided that he no longer wanted to be a lawyer and decided to become a detective. He became a detective because he didn't want this kind of situation to, basically he never wanted it to happen again, and he always wanted to find the truth, and being a lawyer never allowed him to do that. So that's why he becomes a detective. A couple of years later though, Yagami now finds himself tasked with finding a serial killer called the Mole, who has been killing random Yakuza and basically random people around the city. Things really do start to escalate as his past is starting to basically bringing up again. His past is being brought up again. There's a connection between the Mole and his old case from 3 years ago. And now it's time for Yagami to find the Mole and really uncover the truth of what happened 3 years ago. I'm going to say this right now. I am going to be comparing this to all of the Yakuza games. I know it might not be fair since this is only one entry into basically this story, but it is still related to the Yakuza franchise and it has a lot of the same elements that I'm familiar to, so to me it only seems fair to compare it. First off, even though this is a similar universe, this game feels completely different. And I was so surprised to see that this game is actually its own thing. And I'm glad this is the case because I was used to the Yakuza format and all kind of stuff, but this is like a fresh breath of air that was really welcome. And I'm super surprised that I actually like Yagami as a character. Because if you know me, I really loved Kiryu. I think he was like the best character out of everyone. But Yagami is, even after one game, he's up there. I'm so surprised of how much I like Yagami as a character. Because even though he's supposed to abide by the law, he's not above breaking the law basically. And I really do love this dynamic of Yagami's character, of basically when you're supposed to cross the line in order to find the truth. And another thing is I really do like how the fighting styles are different this time around. Because not gonna lie, after 7 games of playing Kiryu's style, it does get a little old. But even though I still had some fun with that, Yagami's style really does stand out. So Yagami has 2 different fighting styles. He has the Crane and the Tiger. The Tiger is basically used for one-on-one combat, and if you can do it right, you can target multiple targets. And then you have Crane stance, which is basically your crowd control one, mainly for fighting groups of enemies. But unfortunately, this is where the first problem starts. I know, right? We're already in the first problem of the game. Combat has a really bad impression at the start of the game. I'm gonna say that flat out. I think in terms of combat, this is probably one of the weaker ones in the Yakuza franchise, at the very beginning at least. I didn't have any fun with it. Yagami is super slow. It feels like you're basically hitting like meat sacks. Like it takes forever to kill someone at the start of the game. But as the game did progress, it started to win me over a little bit. I really had fun with the Tiger stance, and slowly when you do your upgrades, Yagami does get faster, which fixes that first problem of him being too slow. But you have to get to like his max speed setting in order for him to be a little more viable. And I also like how a lot of Yagami's freaking combat is based on timing. And at first it was a little hard to get used to charging attacks, but the more I played, the more I got used to it, and I actually had a lot of fun with this. And you have moves like the Flux Fisher, which if you time it right, it's a one shot. And you have like classic moves like the Tiger Drop. And I have to say, the Tiger Stance is probably the best part of combat. And notice how I say only Tiger Stance, because Crane fucking sucks. It's fucking useless. Because another problem with this game is that the Tiger Stance has been put way more work. They put so much more work on the Tiger Stance compared to the Crane Stance, because the Crane Stance has no upgrades, so you're stuck with the same moves for the entire game. And if you know me, I like variety, and with the Crane Stance, it gets so old at the beginning of the game. We're using the same moves over and over again for the Crane Stance. Like, everything really did just go to the Tiger Stance, and honestly I relied more on the Tiger Stance than the Crane Stance, because I have more moves to work with the Tiger Stance compared to the Crane Stance. And like, again, this company is so inconsistent when it comes to combat, because sometimes they give you just enough or they give you too little, and in this case they gave us too little again. You give us two different stances, but you leave one sidelined. No, that's not how you do this. You have to give equal amount to both stances. I rather would have had like half of the moveset move over to the Crane Stance, so I at least used it. But the redeeming quality for the Crane Stance is the EX boost. The EX boost is basically the Super Dragon mode from all of the other Yakuza games, and it basically gives you more speed and gives you a little bit more moves to work with. And the Crane Stance is so good with the EX boost. Like, it just dominates fucking groups. Even on one-on-ones, it fucking dominates. And I had a lot more fun using the Crane Stance with the EX boost compared to the Tiger Stance. But the problem is that when you first start using the EX boost, it runs out so fucking quickly, and you have to upgrade it in order to become more viable. But other than that, I had a lot of fun with combat, but it does take a long time in order for you to get to that point where combat is super fun. And that leads to another problem. Moves are impossible to find in this game if you do not go out of your way to look for them. Majority of the moveset you have to find through books or through QR codes around the map. And if you're not careful, you can actually miss certain moves if you don't go look for them. And to me, this is a huge misstep, because a lot of the time people aren't looking around for movesets. And a lot of the times the books are super hard to find because they're in the most inconvenient spots ever. Some of them you have to find through casinos because you have to buy them. Some of them are QR codes that are super fucking hidden around the map. But even though there are some things that in order for you to basically find them easier, it's still a lot of work for you to find the moves. Because like, if you don't go out of your way to find these cool moves, you're gonna get bored. And that's pretty sad, honestly, that you have to go out of your way to look for movesets, or if not, the combat's gonna get super boring super fast. Because I mentioned before, the combat had a really bad impression at the beginning of the game. But I'd say go out of your way to find the moves or look them up, because if you don't, combat really does suffer a lot. But other than that, this game makes up for this flaw in every way possible. The side missions, the story, and everything that you can do in this game really does make up for it. One new addition that I thought that this franchise would never do is add new elements in freaking gameplay. And in this game, since you're playing as a detective and you're basically solving cases, there is added content in order to tailor this. I really do love this new aspect because you get to tail people and you get to solve cases. There's like this whole detective kind of atmosphere and gameplay mechanic that I really do love, that you're looking at like your pieces of evidence, because sometimes the game doesn't tell you where to go. And you have to look through your evidence to see, okay, here is the address for this place. Oh, I missed the detail for this. I really do love this element because this really does make this game stand out on its own. And honestly, I was a little worried that this game would just be like another copy and paste of all the other games. But this really does make it feel like its own thing. And I'm so glad that they did this. And like for tailing people, it's fun, but I feel like the AI is kind of dumb at times because sometimes you're like, there's no way that the person didn't see me, and then you just like pixel perfect like hide behind a corner, and you're like, yeah, they can see you, but they don't see you. But other than that, tailing people is a lot of fun. You have to really use your environment to your advantage in order for you to basically fall into the destination that you need to follow them at. But other than that, like the detective work in this game is a lot of fun, and the story is just amazing. Like the new direction that they went, freaking like this new direction basically paid off a lot. I really do love the new characters like Kaito. Kaito is so freaking funny. He is like he's like your partner and stuff. Like he's so funny, and I really do love like the mysterious tone around this case. Like this whole story, I love the tone. I really do like how anyone could be a suspect and anyone could be the mole. And the final act of this freaking story, it was set up so well. Everything comes full circle. I know that a lot of stuff does happen and you could get lost here and there, but the game really does a good job of bringing everything back together just in case if you get lost. And the story is freaking long. I gotta say, the story is really long. I think this is probably as long as Yakuza 0's story. And I'm glad, because I really do love when a game focuses more on its story compared to giving us more content to do. Because I know a lot of people sometimes they just go for story and not do any of the other stuff. But the story is amazing and I was just blown away by it. And boss fights in this game are really well set up. And I love how everything just escalates in order for you to fight the certain bosses. And I've got to say, this game has like the best choreography in fights of all of the franchise. Because like the opening like cutscene for you to start the fight, or like there's cutscenes in between fights, and especially the boss fight with Hamura, where you use like the rolling chair as your advantage, like in Jackie Chan movies. It was so freaking cool, these freaking boss fights. And for difficulty, this game is actually kind of hard on the hard difficulty, because really like enemies fucking punish you if you're not careful, because there's this new mechanic in this game called Mortal Wounds, where bosses do specific attacks and it does a ton of damage, and a portion of your health is just gone because it locks it away so you can't fully heal. And the only way for you to heal yourself in that situation is to use medkits, and medkits are relatively easy to find. But this adds a extra layer of difficulty and extra caution when approaching boss fights, because you can't just go blindly in. You can't just run in and try to beat them up, because if you do, they will dominate you. And music in this game is just as good as always. They always nail the freaking soundtrack for this game. Like all of these games, they freaking nail the soundtrack. And I'm always impressed on how consistently the music is. And also the sound design is pretty good. And the graphics, I played the PS5 version and the graphics are stunning. I was just blown away by the graphics, honestly. Like the facial models, the facial expressions, like everything was just so great. Like you have to see it for yourself, really. It's like me just telling you this is not enough. And if you think that this franchise or this game specifically goes away from its ridiculous nature, you would be wrong, because this game takes its ridiculousness to a whole nother level. It's so ridiculous how much they really, because Yakuza has its ridiculous moments and its ridiculous side missions, and it's only sprinkled here and there, but in this game it goes full force. It's freaking ridiculous, some of these freaking side missions that you have to freaking go through. There's like specific side missions where you freaking chase a wig across town for a celebrity. There's some times where you had to fight these 3 perverts who are harassing people around town, and like their boss is just like this super buff dude that's basically naked. And there's one time when you play hide and seek with this little kid who hides in like the most ridiculous spots around town, like on top of buildings, on top of a fucking crane one time. Like it's it's so ridiculous. And I had a lot of fun with these, not gonna lie. A lot of them were just straight up wacky and stupid, but it was just a lot of fun playing them. And there's a lot of like side cases that you can do in order for you to get more money, get more experience, and all that stuff. And there's another addition in this game where you get to make friends around town, and if you basically get up to their max friendship, they give you items at certain points. And another thing that's actually pretty cool is that some of them actually help you around town in terms of battles. Like certain friends that you make will randomly show up during a battle and basically help you out, and I thought that was super cool. Another thing about combat is that actually the police show up this time, which I've always thought was weird in Yakuza games when you're in a street fight, right? And like nobody gives a shit, like nobody cares. But I'm like, I've always thought, where the fuck are the police in these situations? And in this game, we actually get that. Like if you take too long during certain fights, the police will actually show up, stop the fight, and you have to run away. And I thought that was super cool. I thought that was super super cool that they added like an extra element and on top of combat. So yeah, it's like you're like pressured to finish fights, because if you're not, the police are gonna come catch you. And I thought that was cool. Another thing is like the AI in your companions is actually really good. Like they even finish like certain fights for you. I thought that was super cool, because I know sometimes in like the other games, like the AI, like in terms of like your partners and stuff, when they're with you, sometimes they don't do anything for you. They kind of just sit around and hit people here and there. But in this game, like the AI for your partners, like they go all in. Like it's basically like if you had another person with you controlling the character. Like they're constantly helping you out, constantly grabbing people for you, constantly finishing targets when you're focusing on another person. And I thought this was something that was greatly needed, because sometimes it's kind of like, if the partner's there with you and you don't do anything, it might as well just be that they shouldn't be there at all. But in this game, it fixed that problem that's been happening for like years in these games, and they finally fixed it, and I'm glad they did. And another thing that I was surprised when they added this, it's this concept called extracts, because when you make a certain friend, he gives you the ability to make these little potions. They're called extracts, and these change the game entirely, because extracts are basically little boosts in abilities. Like it's ridiculous what these things can do. Basically, there's one where you can shoot a fireball. There's one where you can send the shockwave. There's some that make combat easier in terms of you can break guard easier. You can get a special move faster. You move faster, or the enemy can't see you. It's stuff like that. You get to create most of these. You just have to find the materials around town, and they just make the freaking gameplay a lot more fun, and an extra element that you can do. And I personally really didn't like using extras, because it felt like it made the game a little more easier. But go crazy with these, because they're just a lot of fun to make. And then you have all the other kinds of stuff you can do around town, like gambling, you have the batting cages. But they took out bowling. I know they took out bowling since like Yakuza 6, but come on, just let me freaking bowl, man. I was like, Yagami doesn't bowl? Like what? And also, karaoke's not in this game. What the fuck is that? Why isn't karaoke in this game? It's like, does Yagami not fucking sing? Like what the fuck? Where's karaoke? Bring back karaoke. And then there's like these new additions, like you can, it's basically the pocket circuit but for drones, like in Yakuza 0. And then you have like this VR mode similar to like Mario Party, where you can get like a bunch of money, get like items and stuff. You can even get certain moves from like the VR mode. Like I know this game took away a lot of stuff, but it added a few more stuff back. And even though I missed some of the old stuff, I really do like these new additions overall though. Like this game has like so much to offer that I basically went crazy, and I have like 50 hours into this game, honestly. And turns out I only did like 3% of the completion list. So who knows how long this game fucking is, like how much shit, how much achievements and all that stuff. But I was just surprised. I was captivated by this whole story. I was captivated by Yagami's character. I really do love Yagami as a character. I was surprised when I finished the game and I was reflecting on it, and I was like, man, Yagami really is a good character. But now it's time for me to give the final verdict for Judgment. This game is just flat out amazing. Even though combat fucking sucked at a lot of the time, I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of bored with the combat for some parts of the game. But the story, the side missions, the amount of content, everything is just there. This is like a perfect recipe for success. I really do like this take. I really do like this detective nature on this game. I really do love this new direction that the franchise is taking. And after finishing it, I jumped right into the second one. And if you want to see me play the second one, you could check me out on Twitch, Real Rick Manica. I leave that in the description if you want to watch me play Judgment or Lost Judgment in its entirety. This game was just flat out amazing. I was shocked at how good it was. I really think that Yagami is a perfect carry-on to Kiryu, even though it's not in the same universe. But I really do hope that they do the franchise more, because there was like this whole controversy for Lost Judgment where the voice actor just straight up quit. And I really do hope that they go basically give him what he wants, because I want more of these. I really do want more of these games. And so my final verdict for Judgment is a freaking 9 out of 10. This game is just unbelievably good, and just go out and freaking play this game. It is worth your time. You will not regret playing this game. I played the PS5 version with enhanced graphics and frames per second, but you even the base PS4 version, my friend is playing it right now. He said that it's still really good, even the base version, so you can go try that out. I think this is only a PlayStation exclusive. I think they recently added this to the Xbox Game Pass, so if you have that, you can play it on there. But other than that, thank you guys for listening. I know I had a month of like doing nothing, but now I'm back and I'm gonna start making these more consistently now. And I have some few shoutouts actually. Go check out Malibu Liz and The Gaming Spidey on Twitch, and go check out Faulty Wagon on YouTube. I will leave those in the description. But anyways, thank you guys for stopping by, and I will see you guys next time on Did You Get the Memo? Bye bye.